Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, we're going to give you a brand new mock draft. With this mock draft, we are going to do it on Pro Football Focus Mock Draft Simulator. We're going to do a couple of trades. And then when it comes to the 49ers picks, we're going to talk about a couple of the prospects, the guys that I take, of course, and then why I'm taking them where I do. This is going to be a whole lot of fun, so check it out. Alrighty, so we are about to kick off this mock draft. Now, as you can see on the screen, I have done a couple of trades already, and let me talk to you about those. So, this first one here is for the pick 71 overall from the New Orleans Saints. Niners here, we're giving up pick 101, one of our compensatory picks, and then also a third round pick next year. Now for me, I'm actually totally okay with giving up a third round pick next year, and simply because as of speaking, we're actually in line to have two third round compensatory picks next year. So this third round pick here in 2024 likely to be towards the end of the third round. So I'm absolutely okay with giving that up, because we're going to have two comp picks next year as of the recording of this video. So I'm totally okay with that. Now, the other trade that I did was actually with the Minnesota Vikings. So that trade was pick 99 overall and Javon Kinlaw to pick 87 for the Minnesota Vikings. And that's one of those trades where I think it's kind of mutually beneficial. 49ers, we get to move up 12 spots and ideally land a player that we covet at that 87 spot, someone that can maybe even come in and be a starter somewhere. With the Minnesota Vikings, they only moved down 12 spots, but they get some help on their defensive line. They've lost a couple of D linemen so far in free agency. They have a need there. Javon Kinlaw, we all know as 49er fans, his issues with staying healthy and things like that, but that could be a worthwhile trade for Minnesota to only move down 12 spots. So there you have it, guys, in case you're wondering where these picks are coming from. So without further ado, let's hop right in. Now, the Niners, for sure, when it comes to the draft, have some needs. I do think that we're going to probably sign a kicker, whether it's Robbie Gould or someone else, before the draft. I do think that we'll bring in some depth at edge and maybe some other positions too. We're going to fill out the roster a little bit, but I'm really, really excited to see what we can come out with here when it comes to the draft. So here we are at pick 71, and we're going to take a look at some guys who are available and who I think that we should pick up. So Tanner McKee, we're definitely not going quarterback this early, possibly in the 7th round or maybe an undrafted free agent. Luke Whippler, we don't have a need at center now after signing Jake Brendel. Laporta is an interesting one because I really do like Sam Laporta a lot. However, I do think there's a lot of really good depth here when it comes to the tight end position in this draft. Now, there's already a name that's sticking out, and to me, Sidney Brown here is the guy that I'm most likely going to take. Jamie Robinson, an interesting one too. But let's click here on Sidney Brown. Now, he's a guy who can play. You can see right here, he's played in the box quite a lot, played deep somewhere too, in the slot. He's kind of played everywhere. And then let's take a little bit look here. So where he wins, his athleticism, and to play safety with the 49ers, opposite a guy like Hufanga. So Hufanga, as great as he is, isn't the most athletic guy necessarily. So, look at Sidney Brown, 6 foot, 205, perfect size, exactly the size that essentially all of our free safeties have had in recent years. We play a lot of too high safety. Brown is smooth and explosive. We need that. His range on the back end and the hips to track receivers and man coverage, that to me sounds like the perfect guy to complement Hufanga. Now, of course, we'll have Tashaun Gipson this year. This will be the last year of his career with the 49ers. So what a player for Sidney Brown to learn from. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see Sidney Brown maybe get some snaps in games that are blowouts in the preseason, and then in 2024 let him start from with opposite Hufanga and just go from there. So without really overthinking this, we're going to take Sidney Brown. Now, the next pick we have, of course, is going to be at pick 87 overall. And to me, at this point here, I'm ideally looking for a right tackle. I think when it comes to, we re-signed Colton McKivitz. To me, Colton McKivitz, his best role with the team is probably a swing tackle. I don't know if he's the guy that you necessarily want to start at right tackle. That's not to say that it's easy for a rookie to come in and start, but I think that would be the goal here, someone to compete with him. And Shanahan's showing he's not necessarily afraid to start rookies. We saw Spencer Burford last year, so there are still a number of really good prospects here at 87 overall. And just remember that this pick was acquired by trading with the Minnesota Vikings, giving up a guy like Javon Kinlaw. Now, the guy here, and you'll see on the left side of the screen here, Blake Freeland, he was a guy that I was really targeting. However, with how things are working out here, I am going to have to adjust. I'm not going to be going with the tackle here because this guy here, Byron Young, man, he is absolutely explosive. You know, we've lost a couple of edge players so far. We lost Ebukam. You know, we lost out on Arden Key has signed with someone else. I know he was with Jacksonville last year, but we lost out on Arden Key. Menahu signed elsewhere. We only really have Bosa and Drake Jackson. You add a guy like Byron Young, who's actually quite refined. Now let's scroll up to Byron Young very, very quickly. You know, he has a prototypical size, sacks, 9 sacks, 22 hurries, really athletic, really impressive at the combine, 6'3", 245. The one knock really with Byron Young is that he's like an older guy. So he is now going to be 25 at the start of the year. However, I think how the 49ers address the edge position is going to be we bring back Kerry Hyder, Jordan Willis. We have Byron Young, we have Drake Jackson, and of course the man himself, Nick Bosa. And to me, I'd be pretty happy with that. Here we are, though. We are now at pick 102. It's our third compensatory pick, and there are still some really good options here. Travius Hodges Tomlinson, he's a relative of LaDainian Tomlinson, going to TCU as well. Now, with this guy, definitely doesn't have the prototypical, size that you might be looking for on the outside. However, he really is, really good in terms of, and I think he's going to will be in the slot. If you look at what he did play a lot on the outside. However, in the NFL, bigger, stronger, faster receivers, he might struggle with that a little bit. The other guy here I like, Jalen Jones, who has that more prototypical size that we're looking for. So this is a tough one right here. One thing which you like about Jalen Jones, of course, is that size, 6'2", 205, really just what the 49ers look for. And you can see what his role is here, outside cover 3 corner. Now, to me, the 49ers, look, we have Mooney Ward, we have Diamador Lenore, but if we saw anything that we saw in 2021, we were losing cornerbacks left, right, and center. So it's so important that you have to have depth here. So I'm going to go with the guy here who I think is going to be a really good fit and has that size. The one knock on Jalen Jones, similar to Byron Young, is going to be his age, but I'm absolutely okay with going with a guy like Jalen Jones. Give him a year, I think, behind Mooney Ward, behind Lenore, and man, I think Jalen Jones in his second year could take a leap similar to what Diamador Lenore did in his second year, and then maybe Lenore can move into the inside with Sammy Womack, and bam, you have a really deep cornerback group right there. But so far, I just couldn't avoid the value right there with these guys. I didn't really plan on going defense with the first 3 picks, but that's really just the way that it's kind of worked out. So pick 156 here, and now this is definitely where I'm going to want to look maybe for a tackle. So we're going to just filter it by offensive tackles here. Luke Haggard is an interesting one. If we look here, he's played a lot of snaps. So if you look here, you look at all these snaps that he's played, I just don't know necessarily if he would be a fit for what we do here in San Francisco. So I'm not going to force the issue. So let's go. And how do I filter by all? Sorry, technical difficult. There we go. So we're back to all. So at this point here, couple of players that I really have my eye on. Could really double up here maybe with regards to edge player. I do like Moro Ajomo here. He's got one of those guys too where, look, PFF grade, really, really solid. Played a lot of snaps with Texas, 6'3", 281. So more along the lines of a guy maybe like a Kevin Givens, for example. But consistency, you gotta love that. Really, really torn here. Oof. Okay. So there's a couple of names here that I love, and I'm going to just select Cam Jones. I'm not going to miss out on him. Cam Jones, linebacker out of Indiana. Now, to me, Cam Jones is a really, really good prospect. An absolute leader. You talk about locker room, like leaders in the locker room. Cam Jones is that. when you look at what he did at Indiana, really solid numbers, a little bit stronger against the run. And I think that would be his role early on with the 49ers, is that, of course, you're going to have Greenlaw and Warner out there on passing downs. But when you do have that third linebacker, you have options. It could be Oren Burks. It could be, Mauricio Marcelino Ball, I think. But I think Cam Jones could almost be a guy immediately who comes in. Here's another big thing too. Cam Jones did injure his foot about middle of the way through last season. He continued to travel with the team. The team brought him to every game just because that's how much of a leader he is. So I think not only is linebacker depth somewhat of a need for the 49ers, I just think this is a guy who's just so good. You cannot say no to him at this spot. And now immediately I already have my eye on a couple of guys here because I think we do need a tight end. So we have Davis Allen and we have Zach Kuntz. Now, when it comes to Zach Kuntz, let's just look at what he has done. Now, he did have an injury last year, but 6'8", 245, and his performance in the combine was off the charts. Compare that to a guy like Davis Allen, for example. Allen has had more consistency in terms of productivity. 6'6", 250, still really, really good size, but I'm just so intrigued by Zach Kuntz that I just don't think I can say no to him at this point. And now coming up here, guys, pick 172. It's going to be our third pick of the 5th round. Now let's filter again by offensive tackle. And here we have Luke Haggard. He's still here. I'm pretty interested. There's another guy here, Nick Saldiveri, who's going to be intriguing too. Tough one, though. I just feel like with Luke Haggard, I'm kind of forcing the issue. I don't know why I'm kind of going that way, but I just think that I am. So I'm going to maybe lean towards going somewhere else. Now, to me, I really do think that in terms of edge right now is pretty light when it comes to the 49ers. So I think a guy like Jose Ramirez, Eastern Michigan. Now look, playing at Eastern Michigan, of course, not the most difficult level of competition, but if you look at his numbers, he is someone who got after the quarterback, back-to-back double-digit sack years, a lot of quarterback pressures, and that can sometimes be just as effective, if not more effective, than being able to just sack the quarterback. Maybe you force turnovers, maybe you force interceptions, things like that. So I think that we've really been able to do a nice job of doubling up on edge, and I think if we bring back one or two edge players in terms of veteran guys, that group is really going to be young, really effective, and I really like the future at the position there. Now, here we are, pick 215. End of the 6th round, and I really like Eric Gray. Now, I'm going to make the pick for Eric Gray, and I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, we don't need a running back. We have McCaffrey, we have Mitchell, we have Mason, we have TDP, but if anything has taught us, again, Elijah Mitchell has not been able to prove that he can stay healthy through a full season. We haven't seen what Jordan Mason is like getting carries a lot, and I think he will get more carries this year. McCaffrey, and I hope for Mitchell and McCaffrey, I hope they stay healthy all year long because they're a phenomenal 1-2 punch. You throw in Mason a 1-2-3 punch, that's amazing, but I just don't know if you can bank on all these guys and absolutely count on them staying healthy. So that's why I'm taking a guy like Eric Gray. He had some really, really solid productivity. The one thing here, he's a really good catcher of the ball too, so I like that a lot. Really solid size, and I just think an overall really solid player, and I think he'll be stoked to get him there at the end of the 6th round. Now, let's fill out the rest of this roster. So we do need to get an offensive tackle, and I think if Nick Saldiveri is still there from Old Dominion, we are going to take, I'm not going to really overthink this. He's someone who has a lot of the athletic traits that you look for. With the pick, coming so late for a tackle, it really would pencil in a guy like Colton McKivitz. Potentially, we could sign a relatively cheaper free agent, an affordable free agent. Maybe a guy like a Billy Turner, for example, can come in. And if, McKivitz does struggle at right tackle, at least we have a veteran guy who's played in a lot of games and a lot of big games there. But I do like the potential of a Nick Saldiveri right there. I think a lot of the criticisms that I'm kind of already know I'm going to hear about is going to be we need to draft a tackle earlier or an offensive lineman earlier, and I get that, but I just think when it comes to the draft, you do have to look at value, and to me the value is just never really there for a tackle until this point, because I do like Nick Saldiveri. I think he's a solid option in the 7th round to develop him. Why not? Now, what I would like to do here to round out the draft is I'm going to go either defensive line, I think, or I'm going to go defensive back. Now, of course, earlier we got a really, really good guy in Sidney Brown. Really like him as a prospect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double down, I think, on the safety position and someone who I do quite like a lot. Alex Austin is someone that the 49ers have absolutely been interested in and have met with. So that's going to be an intriguing one. If we look at him, he's also got some really nice prototypical size. And the other intriguing one here is Daniel Scott. Now, Daniel Scott, one thing with him is, and I haven't really shied away from it in this one, but he is pretty old too. He's 25 years old. So at this point here, I'm going to go maybe looking at, I kind of see these guys in terms of value would be pretty similar. So I'm going to take Alex Austin here just for some depth at cornerback. As of right now, as of the making of this video, we really do have, we have Mooney Ward, we have Deommodore Lenoir, we have Sammy Womack, and we have Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas is a huge question mark, so we're not really sure what to expect out of him. And I actually just realized we have another pick here. I thought that was the last pick. So hey, this is all gravy right here. So you know what? Maybe I'm kind of tempted to go with a guy like Daniel Scott. That could be really interesting. You got some other options here. Braden Willis, that could really help round out the tight end group right there. We got Zach Kuntz, of course, a little bit earlier. Wow, this is really tricky. Now, what I might do here is I might go... this is a tough one. I mean, it's interesting in terms of depth. We could absolutely go quarterback here, Clayton Tune, because I think Purdy again is going to be probably put on IR, so we do need a third quarterback. And maybe, let's do Clayton Tune. Similar to Brock Purdy, we're taking a quarterback pretty much at the end of the draft, and we're going to see what kind of grade PFF gives us. We'll see. Overall, an A-. Okay, so I'm pretty stoked on that. That's a really solid job right there. And I think overall, we did a really good job here filling needs. Now, I think entering the draft, something that we needed was right tackle, which we didn't really address in this mock draft. Again, I just never saw the value there. Depth at safety we for sure need, and depth at edge we for sure needed. So getting a guy like Sidney Brown I think was a home run. That trade with New Orleans worked out really well for us. I also love the trade here with Minnesota. We shed about $2.7 million of salary cap by trading Javon Kinlaw. We move up, we get Byron Young, and maybe we use that $2.7 million saved to bring back a guy like a Jordan Willis, and maybe we can bring back a guy like Kerry Hyder for that money, and bam, we're in business. Jalen Jones, really great scheme fit, great size. Cam Jones, another great fit. I mean, all these guys, I'm a huge fan of this, but let me just slowly, what I'm going to do is we're just going to slowly scroll down, and I'll let you guys get a good look at these picks. But overall, there you have it, guys. So that is my latest mock draft. Of course, we're going to be doing a whole bunch more before we get to the actual draft. There's going to be a lot more free agency moves to come, and I'm really looking forward to that, to seeing what else the 49ers do. You're probably going to see a few restructures along the way as well. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do consider dropping a like, and also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because it really helps out. And before I leave, before I say the two things, I also want to say, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below about who you would have maybe taken in certain situations, what you think of my picks, what you think of my rationale, if you agree or disagree. Always stoked to hear from you guys. But now I'm going to finish it off here with my two things that I always say is the butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.